am hanging out here with David Chen, who is the CEO of Strikingly. And David, I'm really excited to have you here for the Apps That Code Live audience for really two reasons. So one, if folks aren't familiar, Strikingly is a really awesome way for you to set up mobile optimized websites in minutes. So Strikingly is a product that I recommend to so many people. And in my experience, it's just been the easiest website builder to use that I have ever used. So I know that there are a lot of non-technical entrepreneurs who are watching this who Strikingly is a perfect product for them. So I love having you here for that reason, but also because your story is so interesting. So, you know, you're a CEO of a tech company, you've launched this company with like $100 in your pocket, and you've gotten investment from Y Combinator, named Forbes 30 under 30 Asia, like you're crushing it. And so I have some questions for you that I think the audience will really kind of help you get help from and learning your story.
Cool, sounds great.
Okay, so my first question for you is, are you a developer yourself? Do you write?
I'm actually not. I mean, I wrote code for 1 year, during college, but I was terrible at it. So, I guess it might echo with the audience that, coding is for some people, not for some other people. I'm part of those people that it's not for.
Yeah, you're part of that group that it's not for. How did you know, by the way, that it wasn't for you?
I learn fast, but coding has never really, been joyful for me in that sense.
Right.
It's very interesting. I remember when I was in high school and college, I took a couple of coding classes, Java and C++. So I was like, why not, right? Try it out and see how it works. And I even made a game, this small Connect 4 game.
Yeah.
Actually, there's no interface. It's just like you put the coin somewhere, and then somehow it connects 4, whatever. It's a game that was assigned to us in the class. I was like, wow, I'm developing a game, right? First time coding up any program is a game. That's very interesting. And I just really didn't like the experience of having to build it, and myself, I have debug for hours, go down into the code and actually make annotation of what's happening and stuff.
That just wasn't for you.
I guess it just wasn't for me. I can see some people. Well, first of all, it's very interesting work. I mean, it's not that it's boring. It's interesting. It's just that, you don't really feel the sense of passion. I guess for me, it wasn't really that much of things that I can do for the rest of my life. And I decided, there are people who are way better than me who can do this thing than I can. And starting from that point on, I realized I wasn't a developer.
But it's crazy because you then fast forward, launched this successful company that helps people build websites, which traditionally you need to be a developer to do. So how did this happen that you're building a tech company as a non-developer?
Well, I mean, first of all, what we believe here at Strikingly is that, actually this is a belief we have from day one, is that technology is not just for technology's sake. Right? Technology is supposed to help people. Matter of fact, I think a lot of the technology company or tools out there are simply for efficiency boosting. And that's okay. It's valuable, but what we really believe technology can do is actually lowering the bar, right? Helping people who didn't actually think that they actually have the power to be empowered. I think that it's fundamentally what technology should be for, and what product design should be for. And we position ourselves as always being, the actual product design company, an experience design company. And we leverage technology to design a product that can be widely distributed to anybody. I think that's the fundamental of what we believe technology should be. So we have never really started building up just fancy technology because we like it.
Right.
And that's
so many
never.
people do that.
Well, there are a lot of people who I think it's valuable, right? I mean, you need pioneers and hobbyists to build up stuff so that you can see what's possible. But for us, has never really been the core reason. I mean, we do have hackathons. We do have events that we build small gadgets in-house, and just for us to explore new technologies. But the reason why we do that is actually for us to learn what's possible with those technologies, so that we can actually distribute it and make use of it for helping other people. And it's actually a very natural development for us to go from, for me personally, to go from I don't know technology to building a website design company or website building tools or platform. The reason being that I just don't think that should be the barrier for me to do things on the internet, right? I mean, it's crazy that for me it doesn't actually make any sense for us. So none of us kind of look at this and understand, wow, internet has been there for like 30 years, 20, 30 years. And the simple building block of like launching something on the internet, you have to rely on somebody else to do it. It doesn't make any sense. And we have tried, I personally have tried anything possible you can use on the internet to build a website. And just, it's always been impossible. So our story has been, our journey has been very natural. It's like, why don't we just do something so that we can build something so that we ourselves, we can use, right?
Yeah.
And make it easy, right? People who are like us, we don't need, super advanced tools from day one. You don't need super advanced, like, database functionalities or, queries, whatever, from day one. Maybe ever, right? But can you actually just launch a simple landing page from, in the matter of like 10 minutes, 15 minutes? That's what we started with. And we launched it to Facebook, telling people that, hey, we're building up this side project. And the side project is simply just a landing page that, we found very beautiful. And we're like, oh, if you want to create something like this, sign up. And we really don't know how to actually package it or describe it or market it. We just post it on Facebook immediately, it kind of like just catch on, right? And 800 people sign up to that landing page in a matter of like 1.5 weeks without actually doing any promotion. And more interestingly is that we didn't actually write a line of code in the backend. We just wrote a landing page and tell people, hey, build something. You can build something like this. We have something that we have launched to private beta to some people. But in reality, we actually didn't launch anything. We actually didn't wrote a line of code. But the sign up gave us an idea of like.
You took a sign up page that you had created. I just want to make sure I'm following this. Yeah. You created a sign up page for people and said, if you want to have a page that's like this for your own business or for your own whatever it is, personal use, sign up and we'll help you create a page that looks like this one.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even have the clear pitch of like, hey, create this for a business or personal use. We're just like, oh, this is beautiful. You want to create something like this? Sign up. And we didn't know how to describe it, whether it's a one-pager, a slider, a scroller. We have many different names for that thing.
Right.
We started with one page, right? We didn't know how to call it. Actually, we did not. I mean, one of those options were websites. And we're like, okay, we don't know how to call it, so let's just don't call it anything. Let's just show it to people and ask them to sign up. If they're willing to sign up with no pitch, no sales, nothing, then it shows that there's clearly some, interest and demand out there that we can actually fulfill, right? So that was the starting point.
And what year was this? When did you guys?
That was 2011.
2011. Okay, so you post this on Facebook mainly just to your friends, or did you go into Facebook?
No, didn't do anything because we're so well. There's a small background story to this, right?
Okay.
We actually wanted to build a startup before Strike.me.
Yeah.
Strike.me wasn't a startup to begin with, but we actually wanted to build a startup before
Strike.me was a side project.
Well, yeah, Strike.me was a side project from that startup team.
Got it.
So we actually did another startup called Join Start. So you can join something or start something. The idea of a crowdfunding. That was actually before Kickstarter actually took off. So it was very early on. And I was in the school. I was in charge of our student funding. So people actually have to come to the student government. I was student government VP in charge of student funding. So people have to actually come to our committee to actually get funding. And we never have enough money to give out to all of those demands, right? And we're like, well, each one of those teams or organizations have 30 to 40 people. If every one of them give out, like, kind of donate $10, then that's the amount that they usually ask for, $300, $400. So why don't we just create a platform for them to do that, right? Allow them to do such thing. And after we built that platform, I actually forced people to use it using the student government power.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't use it, you're not gonna get any funding. And to bootstrap, the initial kind of beta testers for the platform, it was hot for a moment, but then we realized nobody was using it anymore very quickly, and we started loading up different features, functions, whatever, to that platform, so that people might actually have a reason to use it. And eventually, we end up having this really bloated product with no core value actually.
Yeah.
And then we realized, the students were asking for funding. If you don't give it to them, they will just simply drop it. They wouldn't actually just go.
All the features that you've added. Their problems.
They don't care, right? But there's one thing they asked for. There was one thing they were asking us for. They were like, we went out, we did this crazy thing of talking to them. For any entrepreneur, it's like, yeah, talking to users, that's crazy. And we're like, cool, let's talk to users. We talked to them, and we realized this one thing, which is that, we're like, how can we actually help you with crowdfunding? How can we help you more?
Right.
And the answer we got was that we don't need that. We're like, all right, that's interesting.
Right.
So
that's your whole,
exactly, that's what we started with. Right? Exactly. And we're like, well, why did you sign up then, right? I mean, first of all, you forced us to, and then. Then we actually see that there's some value to it. If you can make the showcase page, look beautiful, that would be fantastic. We can include that in our resume when we're applying for a job, or we can talk to the local vendors, telling them, hey, here's where you can actually put your logo.
Right.
So when you sponsor this event with your food, right? You don't have to give money, but here's a place. And here's the group of people who are working on this project, so that we can show off when we're showing off to our friends, our family. And when we're recruiting, when we're doing like campus recruiting, we can actually tell people, hey, check out our official page, so that you can actually know what we're doing. And we're like, all right, that's fundamentally different from what we thought.
Right, completely different. And how many people, by the way, how many people did you talk to and have this conversation with? I know a lot of entrepreneurs are like, we need to have statistically significant data. We need to talk to 1 million people so that we know the answer. How many people did you talk to here that gave you that feedback?
Well, we did that with Strikingly. I talked to tons of people when we actually did Strikingly. I actually did a lot of those really creepy kind of adding people on Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff. But with that first project, I actually didn't talk to that many people. We're actually, the project is failing. You don't know why.
Right.
So anything that can actually give you hope, you just catch on. You kind of like just seize it, and then you kind of try to do something with it.
So was this like 2 people that gave you that insight, and then you went to pursue it, or you talked about?
Well, more than that. I mean, I think it was like 5 to 10 people that we talked to. Who were actually more active on the platform, but they just didn't need the funding part of the functions.
Right.
And all of them tell us that they wanted the showcase page to be more beautiful. So like, all right, and that's why we started a side project, right? We're afraid of telling people, hey, we have this full-fledged project that we're shifting our focus to work on that. Because what if it fell again, right? So we're like, okay, we don't know what to do, so let's just launch a landing page, right? With nothing, with no code written for the actual product. We're like, okay, let's launch a landing page and see how people respond to it, right? Let's just, an easy way to figure out whether people actually want something like this, instead of like, like the first project we spent about 8 to 9 months writing, tens of thousands of lines of code with nobody actually wanted to use it. With the second project, we did it completely opposite way. So I guess that was the reason why we didn't actually spend that much time on trying to figure out what is the right pitch, what's the right use case and stuff. We just realized this is something that people need. This is something I needed. It doesn't make any sense that people have to spend that much time working on a website. And why don't we just launch something people can use in a matter of 10 minutes, right? Even if it's too simple to be meaningful in the long term, who cares, right? We didn't actually have anything anyways, so let's just launch something that's easy, useful, right? So that was the starting point.
You say we. Who is we then? Because you're talking about writing lines of code. It wasn't you, because you've told us that you don't write code yourself. So who is the we that was involved at that point?
Well, I think you always need a team, first of all, right? I mean, you can really never do this alone if you want to really push it hard. And that was one of my skills that I guess I can work as in a team and also with people. So when we started the first project, the crowdfunding platform, I rarely anybody I can possibly get from campus. So you always have this webmaster that you can find on campus, right? Something that help you work on websites. Actually, the reason why I knew them was because they created websites for my past projects. So I got them on, and it was a project on campus, so why not, right? People have time, we can work on something cool. So that's how we get started. And there's another person, this was the co-founding team. In the beginning, the co-founding team was just a group of friends who wanted to work on something together. But after the first startup, or the first real attempt for startup with the crowdfunding project, realized you really have to pick your co-founder or partner very carefully. But fortunately, out of the group of people we work together, we work with and as a team to create the first crowdfunding project, 3 of us, so our current co-founding team for Strikingly, realized that we can really work together and we really enjoy working with each other. And the kind of specialization was very clear from day one as well with the 3 of us. So one of us focused on the technology side. The other one of us, Tang, which is my co-founder, he is the main kind of mastermind for any of our product. And I do everything else, right? So so that was the specialization in terms of who should do what. And
what does doing everything else look like?
Well, just literally everything else, right? You, from my perspective, I was like, okay, I can code, I can't really work on product. So what I can do is actually save them time, right? So these 2 guys can actually do their work with no interruption and with really no need to worry about anything else. So that includes, in the very beginning, cooking, cleaning the house, buying grocery, doing laundry. Literally, that's actually what I did.
Wow.
And besides that, talking to a lot of users. That's always the case. But you have to do those groundwork. I mean, right now we have office admin. Obviously, they can do their own laundry right now. But in the very beginning, I was like, since I can't really add value specifically from the coding side, what I can do is make sure that they don't have any worry when they're doing it.
Did you feel insecure that you didn't know how to code? Did you feel insecure about that at all in building a tech product with tech people?
No, actually, I never really thought it that way. I mean, also when you work with, when you have co-founders that you can work with, you should never really, well, first of all, you should never worry about them feeling like, oh, this person can't code or can do something else. If you have that doubt about your collaboration being very mutually, a fit, you just can't go on with them for a long time. You have to trust them with what they're doing, and also more importantly, you have to trust them, trust their ability to figure things out. And you each have your own area of focus. So when we first started, Tan wasn't the best product designer, and Dafeng, which is my another co-founder, he wasn't the best developer I've ever seen. But you just trust them that they will have the ability to figure this out, and they will trust me as well. And we have this and obviously you have to find your own position, so you're not competing with one another on the area that they should be focusing on. And that was actually a problem from the first project. That one person from the team had a very similar skill set from with me, and that wasn't the problem. If you just have a very similar skill set, the problem was that we're competing on what to work on, and that was really detrimental, right? And you just can't have that. You have to be hands off and then trust them that they can figure this out.
And also wanted to work on, and they also wanted to work on, like, what were the specific things? Was it sales? Was it talking to customers? Was it marketing? Like, what was it?
In the beginning, I mean, even until now, it wasn't that much of a clear cut, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't have time for laundry today, so Tan, you have to do your own laundry. And they wouldn't be like, what? That's your job, right? I mean, it wouldn't be like that. Or I can cook. I don't want to cook today. And can you cook? They wouldn't be like, oh, come on, man. That's why you're here for. That's your value. That's not what that's not how collaboration look like. I mean, we all try to do as much as possible for the team. I mean, the focus is never like what I should do. What am I here to do? It's more like, what are we here to do? So we use the narrative of us, team, a lot, trying to not think about it from the very personal level. And it's very important as a team that you do that to each other, and make each other feel empowered, secure, instead of making each other feel like, oh, why you're here? What's a value? You shouldn't be thinking about that. And the one thing that you need to have faith is that moving on, as you all grow with each other, all of your contribution would naturally get its place. And that's something that you have to figure out. In the beginning, I didn't actually have sales to do, right? I mean, there's nothing to be sold. Now, before the product, what can be sold? There's nothing. So what I can do...
Except you guys had a ton of signups before the product was created. So you almost went through this period of the non-technical team being the most important because there wasn't anything to build. It was just, let's get signups. And then what happened? You guys had, what was it, 800 signups? A bunch of
signups. At the very beginning, yep.
And then you said, okay, we're going to go heads down and build this. That happened next?
Yeah, I mean, well, what happens, true, we actually built the first version. I mean, fortunately, you didn't actually see the first version, or you wouldn't be talking to me now, because it was really bad. And
was it?
The people hated it. It was really bad.
Really?
When I tried out myself, I was like, oh, why?
So you got 800 signups. You built the first version of the product. How long, by the way, did it take to build that first version?
It took us 1 month. And then we rolled out to 150 people.
1 month, right. And you rolled out to 150, and people hate it.
Yeah, like people were just like, we asked them. I was trying to get some feedback out of it, and people were like, yeah, I honestly don't know where to start. So why don't you just start from nothing again and then rebuild this entire thing? Literally, that's why.
They told you, like, completely scrap this product. It's terrible. Start from the beginning.
Well, I mean, the actual kind of interaction was more like, I really can't give you any feedback. I mean, I really don't know where to start. Wow. I mean, that's what I got. And I'm like, all right, cool. So what we, I mean, it has been, because back then there was really not this kind of entrepreneurial or startup kind of vibe going on, or just like this, you got upheld as being the entrepreneur. It wasn't like that back then. It was more like, you guys want to be an entrepreneur? Cool, I guess. But the school was like, dude, you guys are supposed to go to banking, and like, and you guys were actually, you got some of the dream jobs that other people, would trade anything for.
Why are you in
Why don't you go, right? Because back then, I met Dafeng at Goldman, and Tang was at UBS, and we're like, like fresh out of the college, it's 100, 150, 200K a year, and that was insane because you'll be like, wow, that much money? I'm just a college student. That doesn't make any sense. But then, being an entrepreneur back then wasn't like that. So when we first rolled it out, we were kind of like, we were very deliberate of what we were doing. But still, we tried to be really fast, and the product was really not that great. So we got discouraged, and it took us about another 4 months before we actually redo this and rolled out version 2.0. And we rolled out to another 100 to 200 people, just to be safe, right? Because we have 800 people. Back then, there was about 1,000 people already. So we're like, okay, well, just to be safe, you still have, we always want to leave some chance for us to roll out to more people. And you want a second chance to roll out, right? So we're like, okay, let's roll out the first time, didn't work. Second time, most likely wouldn't work again. So let's just roll out to 100 to 100 people. But the second version, actually, we had one user from Morocco. Again, Morocco. Oh, like, I don't know.
Like, where did this come from, right?
But there's a 17-year-old high school student from Morocco who used us, and he loved it.
Yeah.
And he was the first person who told us that, I love your product. And it's a magical moment. I still remember the moment when I reached out to this person. I'm like, wow, this person actually created 4 or 5 sites on Strikingly already. And let me talk to him. And I was like, first received his email saying that, I really love your product. Your product was one of the best I've ever seen. I really love using it. I created everything with it. I was like, wow, that's fantastic. And we used that to apply for Y Combinator for the first time.
Wow.
And that was kind of like how we get started. But again, all of those encouragement comes step by step. And we got rejected by Y Combinator. And that's when we decided, you know what? It's all in or nothing, right? If we were to do it, let's do it with full force. So we'll move on. We'll kind of quit everything that we were working on back then, and then jump in and do Strikingly full time. And that's when Strikingly 3.0 got rolled out, the version that you're using right now. Actually, right now it's 4.0, but the user interface or experience is pretty much, with that framework that we set up with Strikingly 3.0, and that was the one that actually people were like, oh, I love your product, it's fantastic, I can actually use it, it's a great product. But it took a long time for us to get it.
It took a long time. So I want to fast forward to now. Can you share some of the really awesome things that Strikingly has accomplished, between starting and now? Is any sort of interesting metrics or accomplishments that you want to share?
Well, right now, there are a few things that's very interesting. I think we're still far from being fully really accomplished. So, I can say the milestone we have achieved.
And have it, growing user base, all of these things.
Yeah, it's a very interesting journey. So Y Combinator was definitely one of the highlights. We applied the second time, and they were asking us, what are you working on now? We rejected you last time. We're like, oh, the same thing. Now we're actually profitable. And they're like, oh, interesting. And that's how we got in. So Y Combinator was definitely fantastic.
Profitable.
Yeah, when we applied Y Combinator for the second time, we bootstrapped this entire thing, right? But by profitable, we're really ramen profitable.
Profitable, right?
Right. The Y Combinator way of saying it. We can pay our own rent, server costs and stuff. It's not that much money, but enough for us to be like, oh, great! Finally, I don't need to ask our parents for money. So that was one of the highlights. But besides that, I think one of the core things that we have always been pushing forward is that how can we actually serve users more? How can we lower the bar more? How can we actually make them get more value from using us. And I think that's always the theme. So we have always been trying to actually push the limit. So as I mentioned, I mean, we rolled out a Strikingly app, right? You can right now actually build a website using the app, right?
Yeah.
Literally just using Strikingly app to launch your website. And that's one of the things that we rolled out. And we also, at some point, when we rolled out Strikingly 4.0, the idea is that, well, we don't want you to be locked in with like just the template you chose. We want you to actually feel the freedom of like, applying different filter even after you have created a website. So we launched the theme switcher, so you can actually switch themes at all time. And we continuously make it more customizable on top of the simplicity. But the balance is always very hard to achieve, which is you want to make sure that people can actually use it very quickly and with no learning curve. But at the same time, you want to make sure that people always have new things that they can explore, right? The new functions and features that they can add. So we grow from a simple, one-page website builder to a multi-page website builder. Right now, you can actually add multiple pages. You can also add e-commerce, blog, all of these deep functionalities. And right now we have the app, so you can actually create on the app. I mean, all of those are continuous process for us to push two directions. One is like, it's even more, it's even simpler than what we started with to build a website. And also, you can always scale it up to more complex website. So the one theme for all of this time is that we grow with our users. And now we have users, in actually every single country in the world. We have seen, it's very interesting. Some of the countries I didn't even know existed, but we see that people, that's a very interesting experience. For sure. We see some people coming from like, middle of Africa. We're like, wow, I can't even call the name of that country, but it just turned out that people are using us. The magic of internet, right? The magic of like, having a product that actually have word of mouth, people actually spread it. And that's very interesting to see. And we have now a few million people using Strikingly, publishing like thousands, tens of thousands of websites on a daily basis. And we need to continue to make sure that is like the whole architecture and the infrastructure is strong enough to make sure that every one of those users will get the best graded kind of technology and the performance as they will get from kind of like building a team like what we have done, right? So those are the things that we have been keep on pushing for. I mean, I would say we're only getting started. There are actually a lot of very exciting things that we're rolling out in 2018.
So exciting.
Yeah,
so it's been so awesome to just like hear your story, particularly the beginning of your story, because I think it's really going to be helpful for a lot of people. So as we wrap up, I just wanted to hear from you. What would you say is your number one biggest advice for non-technical entrepreneurs?
Well, first of all, don't think about that. I mean, technology and or non-technology, the focus as an entrepreneur is always to solve a problem. I mean, that is the focus. Technology is the mean to the end. The end is solving that problem. You have to start from the end. If you focus too much on the mean, then you will get carried away by fancy technology, fancy terminology, or fancy kind of a trend, which doesn't actually solve a real problem. So as an entrepreneur, the focus, whether you're technical or non-technical, you should be the master or expert in the problems that you're solving. I mean, that's the fundamental thing that anybody should realize. Then you need to actually mobilize or learn up or leverage anything you can possibly leverage to solve that problem. And technology is being one of them. But besides technology, you need to work with great people, right? You need to work with great talents. You know, attract them. You need to actually learn how to manage. You need to learn how to actually build a team. You need to learn how to actually do sales. You need to actually learn how to do marketing, how to actually convey a message. All all of those things are part of the process. You don't have to have any of those to start with. Like you can start with nothing. But one thing that you can't is that you start, with this kind of a goal of achieving yourself. You should start by thinking about how to actually solve problems for other people.
Yeah.
If it's your problem, that's fine as well, right? I mean, just so that you can actually relate that to other people's problem. And once you transcend from actually thinking about what you can do, and you start thinking about what you should do, and what you're here to do, then you can actually get past your own barrier that you set for yourself, right? If you're not tech, you can learn technology. You can work with people who have the capability of developing technology. You can pay people to do that as well, right? I mean, there are many ways to do it. That would never be the core barrier. But if you stray away from your users' core problem, or you stop thinking about serving them really well, then you're dead.
Yeah, immediately.
Regardless of how great you are with technology. So that's what I would say.
So good. That's such good advice. So thank you so much, David. We're going to leave the chat below open for a little while. So if people have any additional questions, maybe you can jump in and answer a few. But thank you so much for your time. Have a good one.
Cool. All right.